Back on the boat again. I thought before I take the draconian step of throwing the boards down the floor down on the wheelhouse, I'll just show you underneath at what is plumbing. This is plumbing. Right, so we've got a quite a big freshwater tank. I'm guessing 400 litres, but I don't know for sure. And rather a large 70 litre calorifier, which is boat speak for a hot water tank as far as I'm concerned. Okay, and now lots and lots and lots of what is scarily looking like complicated plumbing, but it's actually not really. The pump is a pressure pump, so when you open the tap, the pressure drops and the pump kicks in and pumps water everywhere. So that's what that is. This is a sender for the water full empty gauge that's going to go on the wheelhouse bit here, and obviously got isolating valves in line. This is the accumulator tank and needs to be fitted basically as close to the pump as possible, and that's it's sort of an expansion vessel. It's got a kind of diaphragm in it and you know, a gas bladder that it can compress, and this smooths out. It retains pressure, it accumulates pressure, hence the accumulator, I suppose. And so the pump doesn't keep coming on and off every time you just open the tank. It smooths the system out. And what else does it do? It stops kind of pipe hammer and things like that. So that just tees off the main cold water feed out. Right, so what we've got here is cold water going out of the tank, pressurised by the pump, branching off left and right to feed the sink tap in the kitchen, and down the side of the boat to feed the shower and the bathroom sink. So it also goes into feed keep the hot water tank topped up with water, and also pressurises this tank so the hot water is under the same pressure as the cold. So that comes out hot, goes left and right for the various uses of water on the boat. So the cold goes in and fills the tank up here. So obviously this is under pressure, the same pressure as the same pressure in the cold and the hot, all pressurised by that pump. Okay, so that brings us on to the calorifier, which is very scary looking plumbing here, but it's not really that hard. You've got two coils in it. The first coil is connected to the engine via these two pipes here. So we're going to break into the engine cooling system and channel it through this coil. So when you're running the engine going somewhere, you'll be heating up your hot water while you're doing it. That's what those two do. The second coil runs off to the boiler. We have a diesel boiler in the engine room, and that can heat enough water for the radiator, and it also runs through the second coil to heat the hot water up. And the third way of heating this up is the electric one here, the immersion heater, which really is only practical to run when you're on shore power. Lastly, what have we got here? We've got pressure release valve, and also some kind of controller. You can actually set what the maximum heat is, so you don't scald yourself. So that should be set, but you could adjust that. And that is the pressure relief valve at the bottom, which just exits the boat. If there's a problem and it overheats, then it can blast that out the side of the boat without blowing up the pressure vessel here. We're using the calorifier as another glorified radiator. The calorifier coil is treated pretty much like a radiator, so out of the flow it tees off into the boiler, into the calorifier coil, and out into the return back to the boiler again. Okay, so if you think of the calorifier as the first radiator, it tees off the flow and return. Let's talk about the hot water then. So hot water, when you open the hot tap, comes out of here at the appropriate temperature, we hope, and just goes left and right, much similar to the cold, to feed the shower and the bathroom basin and this side for the kitchen. This expansion vessel is tricked into the hot side of the system because water expands as it gets hot, so this allows the water to expand against another, a gas bladder that's in that vessel there. So again, it takes up the expansion of the heated water in the system. Right, so it all looks terribly complicated, but actually it isn't really. You get yourself a simple diagram off the internet and a load of Hep2O pipe and fit it together yourself. It's no problem. But just think about it carefully before you start, really, I suppose, and work out. You might have to change things and put in a few valves to allow you to do that easily. The next thing to look at is probably the central heating boiler, which is in the engine room. We'll go in there in a minute. And from there, that heats water, and what comes out is a flow out in 22mm pipe and a return back, and that flow and return go all the way down and go under the skirtings all the way to the end of the boat. So the hot water obviously is the flow that goes down, and the cold goes around the last radiator and comes back up the return and goes around in a circle, being heated by the boiler, and that's what gives you hot water for your radiators. So the flow and return come down this side of the boat, and they tee off in 15mm and go up. The flow goes up this side, I think, for the flow, and through the radiator, back down the links through the return. It's just like how you do a central heating system at home, really. Same with that in the bathroom. It just tees off in 15mm off to the second radiator. Third radiator in the bedroom. And here is where the flow and return are linked, but they are not linked directly together, they are linked through the radiator, so the flow ends in this radiator and the return of this radiator goes straight into the return there. And if you don't link it through a radiator, you won't be able to balance the system properly, and that means balancing the system means getting the radiators to chuck out the same quantity of heat. This is a planar diesel boiler. Very, very tiny device. They are based on kind of truck heaters or little boilers that heat up the coolant in trucks. So if you're in Siberia and it's -50, you have this little thing here that fires up and keeps hot water circulating through your engine, so you don't freeze up solid. So that's where they're developed, and they've been making them for a good many years, so they are hopefully reliable. Now we got they're also, I would say, good value for money, because I think I paid about 800 quid for it, which, if you're the kind of European equivalent, is probably a Webasto or Evisbacher boilers, and they're double that. So there we go. We decided to go for this. We're unsure about whether to put radiators on the boat anyway, because hopefully going to be spending our time in warmer climes, but you never know. So thought throw it in. Right, so this is the exhaust that's heat shrouded and exits the boat via a stainless steel exhaust there. That's your air intake, which should theoretically be somewhere close to direct air in, but I think what I'm going to do is cut a vent into this is the steering column that's outside. If you can see that goes to the outside wheel, so I'm going to cut a couple of vents in that, so that will allow more fresh air into this engine bay. There's actually not that many holes in it, so there's a few back there where the steering wires go through the back, but nothing else much more than that, so it does need a bit more air in. Right, okay, so there you got your flow and returns coming out of this boiler. I put these in, I don't know, I watched a video, some guy put them in and he said they might be useful for filling the system up and stuff like that, but that was before I decided to put an expansion vessel in, so I think they're going to be redundant. But anyway, you've got some options there for filling, and that's basically it. You've got all your controlling stuff, your controllers, which will go back to a thermostat that's sitting in the saloon, and you can control it from there. I think for another few quid you can actually control it from a hive as well, but I'm not too bothered about doing anything like that, so it's reasonably simple. So there you go, nice neat little device, and good value for money as long as it works. We haven't actually fired it up yet, of course. This is the fuel line I installed today, so that's going to give it some oomph, hopefully. Right, there you go. The only other thing to mention is these two pipes here, which are which we're going to break into the cooling jacket of the engine. Now, this looks like the likely spot for that. So this is the coolant for the exhaust manifold. So that is going to get bloody hot. So what we're going to do is cut these two pipes and then install them into here, and so it will go from the engine around the calorifier and back in. And the other thing we've got is obviously a washing machine in this tight bit of the kitchen here, and that just feeds off the cold water, so we'll be able to do sort of our own washing here, probably only off shore power really, to be honest, but I think it's a possibility to do it if you've got full batteries, but do it off the inverter, but it's probably best just to leave that for when we're in a marina or manage to get shore power onto the boat. When we start to get the boards down in here, I'm going to run another radiator which will go on that back wall there. Okay, so I'll have to tee that off the flow and return and plumb that in later. But that means that there is a radiator that's quite high in relation to the rest of the radiators. Right, now when you come to filling the system, and also you want some way of getting all the air out of the system, and this is basically it. This is an expansion vessel, and it is plumbed into the return. So you see the flow goes zooming off that way, and the return comes in here 90 degrees up to the expansion vessel, through it and back out again and onto the return. So this forms part of the return flow. Now that means if you put anything in here like antifreeze or some stuff to stop the pipes and radiators flaring up, protect the radiators, that kind of stuff, Thernox type stuff, you can just pour it in here, and that will definitely get around the system because it's part of the return. Another good reason to have this is that any air that's in the system will find its way out here and just come to the surface and worm its way out, so that you shouldn't get any. It should be self self-bleeding, if you like, for air bubbles, bits and pieces like that. And also you can fill it from here quite easily because you've got a nice big cap. So I'll probably end up having to make a cupboard to go around this, and maybe a filler or something that goes in the top here. So that should make that nice and easy to fill your system up. Yeah, okay, so the reason why it's here is that we were really struggling to find somewhere to put it that is above the level of the highest radiator, and it's the radiator over there that's causing us the problem. If we hadn't put one in the wheelhouse, all those are way lower than this, so it's not a problem. We could have sort of stuffed it somewhere down there out of the way, but because we've got this radiator going on that wall, then really it had to be higher than that, so it's gone there. But that's okay, I think we'll put a cover around it and it should be fine. This is the bathroom, obviously in here. So the waste is going straight over the side here. This is grey water, and that's okay to go into the canal. So really that's nice and easy, just straight from the basin out here. I say that grey water is okay to go into the canal. It's okay if you use kind of eco-friendly type soaps and stuff like that. So you just have to get that sort of stuff so we don't kill anything. And right, this is a whale gull pump. So essentially what we're going to have is a switch by the shower here, and when you jump in the shower you throw the switch and the pump starts pumping, and that will suck the water out of the shower waste and chuck that over the side out here. So it's okay to run it dry, so you've got time to sort of turn it on and jump into the shower. But obviously if you don't turn this pump on, the water is just going to start filling up the pump, start filling up back into the shower essentially. So there you go. You have to have a separate outlet for each, the basin and the shower, because obviously the shower is way lower than the basin, so if you tried to connect them together then the basin water would end up back in the shower, so you have to have two skin fittings, one for each. There you go, and there you see your hot and cold water feeds coming up here. They tee off to do the basin. So you've got those coming in here, you've got your stop valves onto your tap, and the hot and cold feeds continue to go into this wall and connect up to the shower. So that's the bathroom sorted out. There, that's plumbing. Plumbing basics, lesson 1. Right, catch you later.